enjoying their meal. We're going to let Brother Trent Passy entertain us with some of his stand-up comedy. So please enjoy. He's a very funny man.
No. Thank you, Ken. I was just standing here just to see. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Ken said, just go ahead and do it. I'm sorry you had to get up to announce that. It wasn't that I was waiting for that. I just thought, I will stand here and I will test a theory. Okay? So 3-4 weeks ago, I'm leaving church and I run into Sluvia. Now, Sluvia says to me, oh, I am looking so forward to hearing you tell jokes at the ward dinner. I said, oh, that's nice. So how did you hear about that? Oh, it's in the ward bulletin. And sure enough, in the program every single week for the last month. Chili and soup cook-off, comedy by Trent Passy. So, and there's a flyer that's been going around the neighborhood. So no pressure there. Thanks, Ken. I told her, I said, I don't know why he's asked me to do this. Now Ken is a subscriber to an email joke newsletter I send out called Tidbits. And so he says, well, you could come and you could tell your jokes and then maybe people would subscribe to it. And it's like, okay, I really don't know that I should mix commercial enterprise. Well, I don't make any money on this thing. It cost me quite a bit of money, actually. But, it's like, I don't know if that's appropriate for church, but I could put in a plug. But I told Sluvia, I says, I edit jokes. I will rewrite a joke. I will compile jokes. I will mail jokes. I'll improve a punchline occasionally. I'll read a joke. Every once in a great while, I will just tell a joke. But I said, I don't do stand-up comedy. She says, oh, Brother Passy, if you just stand there, people will laugh. So I just thought I'd test that out and see if it was. I take that as a compliment. I'm pretty sure that was a compliment. I don't know why we need that entertainment with an event like this. I mean, maybe with the Christmas dinner we could do something, but this, for heaven's sakes, this is a chili cook-off. Give it 20 minutes. The comedy writes itself. You've each sampled about 6 different chilies, so there will be some stifled laughter before the end of the night, I'm sure. Well, comedy is something I like. Humor is something I like. It helps us cope with life. It helps us cope with the difficulties and the problems. Those of you who see my wife and I walk the dogs around the neighborhood may have noticed in the last few weeks we're down to one dog. Little Murphy died. That was sad. He was my little pal. And so we just walk his sister now. And he and I had become quite close. Those who knew me as a child would know that I hated dogs. I was afraid of them. I was bitten by a dog when I was very young. And I was just terrified of dogs. And so, this little guy became my buddy. It was kind of a package deal when I thought, oh, here's a lady I like and she has dogs. But, they become good little friends. But his death was so sudden. It hit me really hard. I've seen family members waste away and things. And Ken's back there saying, no, comedy, not tragedy, Trent, comedy. And I'm getting to it. But I've seen death in my time, but that was one of the most sudden, and it was a very sad thing for me. And it's got me thinking. I'm getting a little older, and you never know when death will strike. It could happen any time. And as I thought about this, I thought, when it's my time, I want to go like my grandfather, peacefully in his sleep. And not screaming in terror like the passengers in his car. That wasn't good. But, death, like I say, it comes. Bishop, you've presided over how many funerals now? 18 funerals. I thought he was going to say too many. That's the right answer there, and you can use it anytime. 18 funerals since you become the bishop. That's a lot. Now, many of you have come to many of the funerals. There was one last year, and I hope he'll forgive me for telling the story. I should have asked his permission first, but Maximilian. I don't recall the last name, Max for short. He wasn't in our ward very long. He didn't come out to church much. When he moved here, he was already suffering from late-stage lung cancer. And the bishop recounted to me how he would often go and visit him at the hospital when he was finally hospitalized. And they would talk about all these wonderful things. Max's facing death had brought him to just, think about the things of eternity, the great and grand and wonderful mysteries that are out there. And he'd talk about the afterlife. He'd talk about the things of God. He'd talk about how precious life was. And the bishop said he really enjoyed these meetings. And when he went to visit with him on what would be the last occasion, Max tried to speak, and the bishop drew close to the bed. And Max, all of a sudden, he couldn't speak. It was like he couldn't breathe. He gestured, a pen gesture, to write something. So the bishop grabbed a pen out of his pocket, and he reached around, and he had an old tithing envelope in his coat jacket, and he handed it to him. And Max scrawled out something, and just as he handed it back, he flatlined. And the bishop called for help, and the emergency team came in. And I was one of the few people. I don't think a lot of you were at the funeral, mostly people outside the ward. But he was there at the funeral talking about being with Max at his last moment. And the light kind of came on, and he said, "Oh, that reminds me, I was with him for his very last words." And knowing what profound things he always shared with me, I'm sure this is something profound. I haven't even looked at this. It's on the tithing envelope in my pocket, because he'd reached in and found it, same coat. He pulled it out, unfolded it, and read Max's last words on this earth. "You're standing on my oxygen tube." So that's, okay. So that really, before he calls me in his office, that really didn't happen. So, and then the joke about my grandfather, that's a Will Rogers story. So humor works best if you tell it about yourself, or if you tell a joke about somebody you know, preferably someone who can't excommunicate you. And, humor is, if you personalize it, you can get people laughing as long as they understand. I'm sure some people are saying, well, he shouldn't lie like that. This is church. He can't lie like that. But I'm going to tell some stories about my life, none of which are probably true, but just go along with me for the sake of our alleged entertainment this evening. Along with death, there's just aging. I may have 20, 30 years left, but aging, well, that's hitting right now. And it's kind of tough. I went to IHOP. This is a true story. Went to IHOP this week, and they get the menu, and they get a second menu, and they get a third menu, and they get a fourth menu. And so I've never seen that many handouts at a place. And so I'm looking at these, and here's the regular menu, and here's a special, and here's something else, and here's the 55 and older menu. And I thought, well, last birthday turned 55, shouldn't have grown the beard out. I'm too gray in the beard, so I can't really hide my age, and so, okay. And I was a little indignant. I thought, well, I don't want to get old. I don't want to be thought of this way. And then I saw the prices, and I thought, well, this is okay. All right, I'll order it. So I ordered off the seniors menu for the first time. That was fun. But, I thought, if it wasn't for all these aches and pains and other problems, I don't know if I'd know I was still alive, because age will get you. I want to take back all those times when I was younger, and I said, no, I don't want a nap, because I could really use those now. But things go, my memory's not as sharp as it used to be. It's harder getting around. Plus, my memory's not as sharp as it used to be. So, but my primary care physician, he referred me to a nose, ears, and throat guy for a condition. So I go in there, and I'd just been to my primary for my annual physical, been to the eye doctor. My eyes are getting worse, naturally. I was at my dentist for my regular visit every 6 months. I go in there, and as I look at the directory there at the doctor's office, a specialty clinic, I thought, this is amazing. And I'm going to use some clinical names for types of professions. Those of you with children here, you can explain it to your kids later or not if you want. I'm just using clinical names here. But I look at this directory, and besides doctors for ears and noses and throats, we had a urologist, a gynecologist, and at least 2 proctologists. And it occurred to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think I sense a pattern here. If you have a hole anywhere on your body, there is a doctor for that. And, you know, and it's like, okay, that's how they treat disease. And then it also occurred, if they can't fix you, they send you to a surgeon. Why? To make another hole. So, yeah, it's fun going to the doctor. Well, as I mentioned, my hobby is editing jokes. Ken is allowing me to put in a shameless plug. So, TrentPassey.com is my website. You can go there. I don't charge for it currently anyway. You can sign up for tidbits. Several people, including the bishop who's just canceled his subscription, I'm sure after that joke, several of you are on the list. It's published every week on my Facebook. It's on my Twitter at Trent Passey. You can find it there, and you can subscribe if you want, or just read it online. So there's my plug for that. But I've had several hobbies. That's my favorite hobby. I've been doing this for 21 years, doing email joke newsletters. But I've had some other hobbies along the way. I like reading, for example. You know, enjoy a good book, fiction, nonfiction. I love Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is great. Any of you read Sherlock Holmes as a kid or as an adult? Okay, got some. There's a little known story from the memoirs of Dr. John Watson. Didn't quite make it in with the collected edition, but it's about the time Sherlock and Dr. Watson go camping. And they're out there, and Watson's thinking this will be a relief from all this crime solving. But of course, Holmes always has him on his toes. You know, what fungus is that? Is that a poisonous herb? Is this okay to eat? And so he would always quiz him, trying to help him be more deductive in his reasoning. And they get there, and they set up camp. They have a wonderful meal. They go to bed. And a few hours later, Watson's awakened by a nudging. Sherlock is nudging him and arouses him, and he blinks, his eyes open, and what is it? He says, "Watson, look straight up and tell me what you see." And Watson looked, and he saw the vast cosmos, a beautiful, clear, starry sky. He says, I see the galaxy, the universe. And Holmes says, "What does that tell you?" Watson thought, okay, I'm ready for this. "Astronomically, it tells me there are millions of suns in the universe, with billions of planets perhaps surrounding them. Astrologically, it tells me that Saturn is in Leo. Meteorologically, it tells me we were likely due for clear weather tomorrow. Horologically, it tells me it's about 3:15. And theologically, it tells me that God is in his heaven and is watching over all of us, as insignificant as we are in the grand cosmos." He smiles smugly and turns to Holmes, and he says, "Well, Sherlock, what does it tell you?" "Watson, you twit, someone's stolen our tent." So, another hobby I took up, my brother is a bird watcher. And so I thought, well, that would be fun, but bad eyes and trying to identify the plumage of this or that, I probably don't really need to do that. But one evening, I was out in the backyard, and I hear, woohoo, woohoo. I'm thinking, oh, that's an owl. I think I hear an owl. So just for fun, I call back, woohoo, woohoo. And then it calls back again. I think, oh, this is great. I go out the next night. Sometimes I hear it first, sometimes I initiate it. It's like, this is great. I began to spend hours out there this particular summer. I went and I'm calling, I'm doing different patterns, and it's being repeated, and it's like, this is fantastic. And I thought, I'm on the verge of discovering, something new in interspecies communications. This is wonderful. And I was going to publish a paper or have documentarians come in or something. It would have been fine. Until I overheard my wife talking to Wendy through the back fence one day, and she said, "I don't understand Trent. He goes out and he just calls to owls all night long." And she says, "That's odd. My husband does the same thing." So that hobby didn't pan out real well. My other brother wanted to get me into hunting. So we go out to do some hunting when I was younger as a teenager, and I'd never handled a gun before, and he taught me how to shoot, and it's like, this is okay, this is good, and we went and we found this field full of pheasant. He says, this is wonderful, but it's a no trespassing sign. He says, I'm going to pull up here, I'm going to go talk to the farmer or the owner of this land and see if it's all right for us to do a little hunting. I said, okay. And I waited. And he talked to the hunter and talked to the owner. And the owner had a very odd request. He said, you know, I will let you do that if you'll do me a favor. My old mule, Bess, she's gotten on in years. She's blind. She can't get around. I need to put her down. I just don't have the heart to do that. So if you'd be willing to shoot her, the land is yours all day, do what you want. Now my brother's a bit of a rascal. So he comes back and he tells me, he says, okay, well, this farmer is really, and he used some colorful language, I'll just tell you, this farmer, he's an idiot, he's just rude to us. He says, I'm going to teach him a lesson. I'm going to go shoot his mule. No, please don't do that. I was a tender-hearted thing. I thought, no, you need to come with me, and in fact, you should pull the trigger. You need to be a man. I thought, no, I can't shoot the mule. No, don't do that. He said, well, I'm going to do it on my own. You just sit there if you want. And so he went off. And I thought to myself as he went over around the barn to do this, I thought, you know, I really should try to be a man. Maybe he's right. It didn't seem right to me, but I should try. He found the mule, he shot the mule. I find out about all this afterwards. Shoots the mule, and as soon as the recoil had faded off, the echo, all of a sudden he hears blam, blam. He runs back to where I am, and I'm holding the gun. I said, I got his cow too. So hunting did not work out for me real well. I tried horseback riding. I thought I'll start off real easy, and it was a nice little trot, and then it began to go faster and faster and faster, and it's like I'm losing control there. I can't stop, and it's like I'm going to fall off, and I fell off, but at the last minute my foot gets caught in the stirrup, and I'm really in trouble. My head's bouncing on the ground, and I thought I was done for certain, and luckily the Walmart manager came and unplugged it, so thank goodness for heroes. I did get a sports car one time. I thought this will be fun. Get a sports car, and I'm driving tiny bit too fast, like maybe double the speed limit. It was, you know, it just had such a smooth ride, and an officer pulled me over, and I thought, oh, I can't afford to get this ticket, you know, and my brain did some things, and I'm not proud of everything. I'll come confess this to you later, Bishop. But so the officer came up. And he says, I see you're going a little fast there. And I said, well, I'm fleeing a robbery. He says, oh, were you the victim? No, I committed the robbery. Wait, you're telling me you were speeding and you committed a robbery? Yeah, all the loot's in the trunk. He says, I'm going to have you get out here. I said, no, don't touch me. I'm afraid you're going to find my gun in my glove box. Well, he put his hand on his sidearm, and he says, you stay right there. And he called for backup, and the SWAT team came. Everyone came. They got me out, had me in handcuffs, and the senior officer there said, you know, the policeman, the patrolman who pulled you over, he said that you were involved in a robbery, and you had money, stolen goods in the back of your trunk, and a handgun, and we didn't find any of those things. I said, oh, I bet that liar said I was speeding too. So, didn't get out of the ticket. I've tried a few jobs in my life. When I was a teenager, I just lucked into this wonderful opportunity of working for a month for a multimillionaire. I was an intern, I didn't get paid, but I had to get a passport. We flew to the Bahamas, and we did some different things, and I just learned about different business practices from this multimillionaire. But he was a bit of a braggart, I thought, because he was always telling me about this celebrity and that celebrity that he knew. And I says, you know, and the man's name is Jim Smith. You know, and I thought, you know, Jim Smith, you are not that famous. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, and I finally got fed up one day. I only had about a week left working for him. And I says, you know, Jim, I don't believe you. I think you're just making up these stories. I know you got a ton of money, but you do not know every famous person in the world. That's what he said. I know every famous person in the world. I said, he says, well, I can prove it. You name 3 famous people, and I'll know them. I said, okay. And this is back, it was before he passed. I thought of my favorite movie actor, John Wayne. And I thought, well, this would be a good one. I said, John Wayne? Yeah, I know him. The President of the United States? Yep, we're friends. The Pope? Oh yeah, I know him. No, sorry, Jim. I'm calling you on this one. He says, well, I will bet you, I will bet you $1,000 versus $10. You only have to pay me $10. And again, sorry, Bishop, shouldn't have taken him up on the bet, but I thought, okay, I'll do this. I'll bet $10 against your 1,000 that you don't know these 3 people. And he says, well, you've got a week here and you still have your passport. I said, yeah. He says, come on, we're getting on my private jet. Okay. So we fly, I thought we were headed to Texas, but no, we go to Hollywood, where there's a big mansion, and we go up, and he announces himself at the little radio box at the door, the speaker intercom, and we're ushered in, and there's the Duke, John Wayne himself. Well, how are you, Jim Smith? And it's like, this is my hero. I got to meet him. I thought, this is wonderful. This is great. But I thought, that's a fluke, you know, a famous movie star. Okay, I'll give Jim that one. I was pretty secure on getting my $1,000 out of this. He says, okay, let's Washington next. I say, are you serious? Yeah. We go to the White House, and after a little security check, we're ushered into the Oval Office. I thought, you know, this is just the tour group. You know, he's pulling one over on me. And sure enough, here comes the president. I won't name which one in case you didn't vote for him, but and it's like, oh, well, Mr. President, and I get to meet him, and I thought, wow. I said, okay, Jim, you know a lot of people, we can go home now. No, we're seeing this through, off to the Vatican. Oh, no, that's fine. You don't have to convince me. Plus, I didn't believe him. But so we fly off to Rome, and we go to the Vatican, and he says, it's a little tricky. I can't get you through security, but if you'll wait here in St. Peter's Square and just look up at that balcony there, you know, I'll prove this. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Jim Smith, famous Jim Smith. Everybody knows Jim Smith. Sure, he doesn't know the Pope. And shortly out comes the Pope for his afternoon, speaking to the people. And people gather around, and it's like, okay, there's the Pope. And out comes Jim Smith. And it's like, no, that can't be. You know, there's some trickery here. So I asked a local, who someone, I think he was worked there at the Vatican. I says, now who is that up on the balcony? And he says, well, I don't know who the little Italian fellow is, but the other one's Jim Smith. So guess he was well known. But thank you for the applause on that one. It's one of my favorite jokes. Try to make it about myself. I have to make myself a teenager, so John Wayne's still alive. I should just update the joke. One more story about employment. One time, I got a job with a contractor, and we would go in and we'd take care of the yard, and we'd take care of the house, and it was very interesting. And we go to this one woman's house, and I'm following him around with the lady of the house, and we go in the kitchen, and she says, I would like this room painted green. And he says, okay, and he makes a note, and then he says, would you mind if I opened your window? Oh, well, that's fine. And he opens her window, and he calls out, green up. She thinks that's odd, but okay. They go in the bedroom, and she says, I would like this room painted yellow. He says, okay, would you mind if I opened your window again? No. He calls out, same thing, green up. And she's confused, but okay, whatever. These had reasonable prices, well known. And then we go into the family room. She says, I think burgundy would be a nice color to paint this. He says, that's fine. Would you mind if I just open the window here? He calls out again, green up. And she says, no, I think you've misunderstood. The kitchen is the only room I want to have painted green. And he looked puzzled for a moment, and he thought, oh, no. That has nothing to do with the painting. It's just I have a blonde outside lane sod. So great. Yeah. Had to get a blonde joke in here. So I think we best be wrapping up. Would you indicate is that a good idea that we start wrapping things up, Ken? Well, I still. Okay. You're very generous. Okay. Okay. One more story about a career. I decided to work in emergency services as an emergency operator. I thought that'd be fun, taking 911 calls. It's a little stressful, you know, and I decided to try that, and I quit right after this one call. Hunter, I don't do well with hunting, obviously. A hunter called up, and he was just in a panic. He says, we're out hunting. My buddy grabbed his chest, and he keeled over, and I think he's dead. And I said, okay, now we need to be very calm. I said, now, first of all, make sure he's dead. He says, okay. And I hear him put the phone down, blam! Okay, now what? That's what I thought. Should have gone hunting with my brother. That's it. Anyway, so I'll tell one last joke tonight. You've been a really wonderful crowd. Appreciate that. I'm reminded of a statement from Groucho Marx. And he said, I have had just a splendid, perfectly splendid evening, but this wasn't it. But anyway, so a gathering of Mormons, what could be more appropriate than a story about a bar and drinking? So, bear with me. So, this Irishman goes into a bar in Dublin. And he goes up to the barkeep and he says, I want 3 pints of Guinness. So he pours him 3 pints, sees him go over to a table, assumed he's going to be joined by people. There's no one there. Okay. And he sips one of the pints. He sips the second. He sips the third. And so he goes, working his way. It's the most bizarre thing that the bartender had ever seen in his life. He's sipping these one at a time. And he's thinking, this is just kind of odd. And he comes back for refills on all 3. And he says, I am happy to serve you what you want, but this is just a little odd. You know that Guinness will go flat. If you had them just 1 pint at a time, it would probably be better. He says, no, let me tell you. Me and my brothers, we used to go drinking together. And one went to America. And one went to Australia. And we made a promise that every week, just like we all used to drink together, we would go and we would get us 3 pints. And we would drink all 3 of them in honor of the days when we used to drink together. An odd custom, the barman thought, but that's kind of touching. Okay, I'm here to please. And so he became a regular in the bar. And he thought, this is, you know, everyone around knew this is what he did. He would come and he would drink his 3 pints. This went on for months. One day, he came in and he ordered 2 pints. And the barman poured the drinks for him, watched him go over, thought, did he make a mistake? No, finished the 2 pints. There was a hush over the bar because everyone knew him. They were regulars, they knew the story. He came up again and he says, you know, I don't mean to impose, but just, you have my condolences for your loss. And the Irishman looked at him, puzzled for a moment, looked down at the 2 pints. He said, oh, no, that's nothing like that. Me brothers are fine. No. It's just that I joined the Mormon church and now I don't drink. Thank you. You've been a wonderful crowd.